The Australian dollar has today plunged to its lowest point in 2.5 years. As fears of a global recession mount and energy prices keep rising, let's bring in our business editor, Ross Greenwood. Ross, so what about the story today about power prices potentially rising 35% in 2023? That, of course, feeds straight into inflation and interest rates.
Yeah, so all of this is intermixed in some ways. Jeff Dimery from Alinta Energy basically saying at a conference today that he believes that power prices could rise by 35%. Clearly is not a good thing for Australia's inflation rate. And given the fact that there are other signals that maybe inflation hopefully will ease, that's exactly the sort of thing that feeds into everything. It doesn't matter whether it's manufactured goods, whether it's food, whether it's farm sector prices. All of these things are reliant on energy prices remaining relatively low. So it's a situation even right now with oil prices starting to rise again after OPEC cut production last week. These again feed back into a range of different things. But if we look at the Australian dollar, just to show you what's taking place, the Australian dollar as we sit here now, 63.5 US cents. It had been to a low of 64.4. Now, before the Reserve Bank made its decision, the Australian dollar was sitting around about 65 US cents. So it's dropped nearly 2 cents since that decision to raise interest rates by 0.5% when the market was expecting, rather 0.25% when the market was expecting 0.5%. That clearly has had an impact on the currency. Second thing is also this week, the Treasurer and others, including the Reserve Bank, will be in Washington for meetings. So there's the first face-to-face G20 ministers meeting of the finance ministers. And then also the International Monetary Fund will be there and putting out its forecast for economic growth around the world. And this is where it's broadly expected there might be fears of a global recession. And that also is hurting the Australian dollar as we speak.
Ross, on the subject of energy prices, what have petrol prices done since the government reintroduced the full fuel excise a couple of weeks ago?
Well, you might recall the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, basically saying the ACCC will be watching petrol retailers that they don't try and price gouge. Well, we've just gone back just to before that excise was reintroduced. And lo and behold, when the latest numbers came out today for the end of last week from the Australian Institute of Petroleum, they're up exactly 25 cents, which was a 22 cents a litre excise plus the extra money for the GST as well. So you can see here pretty much they had been coming down, but then they've bounced up, and that's almost 25 cents a litre, exactly that they have jumped. Now, there's going to be more pressure on those petrol prices to rise even more in the coming weeks, and that's as a result of that falling Australian dollar we spoke of, because imports become more expensive. And then on top of that is the oil price, which itself is increasing. So ultimately, the message here is that the motorists and for industry, that prices are going to rise over the coming weeks.